Hit the subscribe button.
Jamie Carter awoke to the insistent beeping of his comms unit. The red alert signal flashed ominously on the screen. Unidentified spacecraft detected in Earth's atmosphere. Immediate response required. His mind raced as he swiftly donned his uniform and made his way to the command center. The room buzzed with urgent voices and the hum of machinery. Jamie, a seasoned space pilot, was well known for his quick thinking and unflinching resolve. He was greeted by General McAllister, whose stern expression hinted at the gravity of the situation. "Jamie, we need you to lead a mission to intercept this alien vessel. We have no idea of its intentions," the general stated, handing him a tablet with the ship's coordinates. Jamie nodded, his focus sharpening. "I'll need a skilled team. Dr. Evelyn Hughes for scientific analysis and Lieutenant Mark Daniels for engineering support." The general agreed, and soon, Jamie was briefing his team aboard the Indomitable, their state-of-the-art spacecraft. Dr. Hughes, a brilliant scientist with a knack for deciphering alien technology, and Lieutenant Daniels, an enigmatic but talented engineer, were both ready for the mission. As the Indomitable launched into space, the tension in the cabin was palpable. Jamie glanced at his crew, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the control panels. "Stay sharp. We don't know what we're dealing with." The alien ship loomed ahead, an imposing structure of sleek metal and strange, pulsating lights. Jamie initiated communication protocols, his voice steady. "This is Captain Jamie Carter of the Earth Defense Force. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a distorted voice crackled through the speakers. "Stay away from Earth, you'll regret it." The message was as alarming as it was vague. "Dr. Hughes, can you make sense of this?" Jamie asked. Evelyn's fingers flew over her console. "The message is definitely a warning, but there's something more. It's encoded with complex data. I need time to decode it." "Time we might not have," Jamie muttered. "Daniels, how are we holding up?" Daniels checked the systems. "All stable for now, but their tech is beyond anything we've seen. If they wanted to, they could overpower us easily." Jamie frowned. "We need to understand their intentions before making any moves. Keep analyzing their systems, Daniels." As they monitored the alien ship, it began to emit a strange energy field. The Indomitable shuddered, systems flickering. "What the hell is that?" Jamie exclaimed. "It's some kind of interference," Evelyn said, eyes wide. "We need to get out of its range or it'll tear us apart." "Agreed. Daniels, evasive maneuvers, now," Jamie ordered. The Indomitable swerved away, narrowly avoiding the energy field's grasp. Jamie's heart pounded as he realized just how advanced the alien technology was. "This isn't a hostile move, it's a demonstration of power," he thought. Once at a safe distance, Evelyn managed to decode part of the message. "Jamie, the warning is tied to an ancient weapon on Earth. They believe it's a threat to both our species." Jamie considered this. "We need more information. Re-establish contact." He opened the comms again. "We understand your warning. Can you provide more details about this weapon?" This time, a holographic image of the alien leader appeared, an ethereal figure with an air of wisdom and authority. "The weapon is ancient and dangerous. If activated, it could annihilate all life. We seek to prevent this catastrophe." Jamie absorbed the information, a mix of relief and concern. "Why not help us disable it?" The alien leader's expression softened. "We will assist, but know that there are those among you who would seek to use this weapon for their gain." A flicker of unease crossed Jamie's face as he glanced at Daniels, whose eyes were now shrouded in suspicion. "Understood. We will cooperate." The chapter concluded with the Indomitable returning to Earth, carrying the heavy burden of their new knowledge. The real challenge lay ahead, preventing a potential disaster while navigating the treacherous waters of human ambition. Jamie Carter stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the Earth grow larger in the viewport. His mind raced with the implications of the alien warning. The ancient weapon hidden on Earth was a threat to both humanity and the alien species. It was his duty to ensure it was secured. "Dr. Hughes, any progress on the message?" Jamie asked, breaking the silence. Evelyn looked up from her console. "I've decoded part of it. The weapon's location is somewhere in the Arctic Circle. But the aliens hinted at a rogue faction on Earth that might try to use it." Jamie frowned. "We need to get there first. Daniels, how's the ship holding up?" Lieutenant Mark Daniels glanced at his screens. "Systems are stable, but I don't trust those aliens. Their technology is far beyond ours. They could be leading us into a trap." Jamie nodded, acknowledging Daniels' concerns. "We don't have a choice. We need to trust them for now. Set course for the Arctic." As the Indomitable sped towards its destination, Jamie's thoughts turned inward. The responsibility of this mission weighed heavily on him. He had to protect his planet from a threat it didn't even know existed. The ship landed in the icy wilderness of the Arctic Circle. The team disembarked, their breath visible in the freezing air. The coordinates led them to an ancient structure buried under the ice. "Looks like a temple," Evelyn said, her voice muffled by her scarf. "This architecture predates any known civilization." Jamie activated his communicator. "Stay alert. We don't know what's inside." The team moved cautiously through the entrance, the air thick with an unspoken sense of danger. The corridors were lined with strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. Evelyn examined the symbols. "These markings suggest the weapon is not just a physical object. It's connected to some form of energy we don't understand." As they ventured deeper, they reached a large chamber. In the center stood a pedestal with a crystalline structure pulsating with a soft light. "That must be it," Jamie said, stepping forward. "Evelyn, can you disarm it?" Evelyn approached the pedestal, her fingers tracing the surface of the crystal. "It's not a simple matter of disarming it. This device is linked to the Earth's magnetic field. If we disrupt it incorrectly, it could trigger a catastrophe." Before she could continue, the sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber. Jamie turned to see a group of heavily armed men entering the room, led by a man with a cold, calculating expression. "Well, well, Captain Carter. Fancy meeting you here," the man sneered. Jamie recognized him immediately. "Colonel Harris. I should have known you'd be involved." Harris laughed. "You always were the idealist, Jamie. This weapon could give us unimaginable power. We can't let it go to waste." "You're mad, Harris. This thing could destroy us all," Jamie retorted, stepping protectively in front of Evelyn. Harris raised his weapon. "Stand down, Carter. This doesn't concern you." Jamie didn't flinch. "It concerns every living being on this planet. I won't let you take it." A tense standoff ensued, the air thick with unspoken threats. Evelyn worked frantically, her hands a blur over the crystal. "Jamie, I need more time," she whispered. "Hold them off as long as you can, Daniels," Jamie ordered, his eyes never leaving Harris. Daniels nodded, taking a defensive stance. "You got it, Captain." Harris smirked. "You're outnumbered and outgunned. This is futile." Jamie clenched his fists, ready for a fight. "Maybe. But we're not giving up without one." Suddenly, the crystal emitted a bright light, blinding everyone in the chamber. When the light faded, the crystal had deactivated, and Evelyn stood triumphant. "It's done," she said, breathless. "The weapon is neutralized." Harris's expression turned to rage. "You fools. Do you realize what you've done?" Jamie stepped forward, his stance firm. "We saved the world, Harris. Something you clearly didn't care about." Before Harris could respond, the ground shook, and the chamber began to collapse. "This place is coming down. We need to get out of here," Jamie shouted. The team raced back through the corridors, dodging falling debris. They burst out of the temple just as it crumbled behind them. Breathing heavily, Jamie turned to his team. "Is everyone okay?" Evelyn nodded, her face pale but determined. "We made it." Daniels looked back at the ruins. "What about Harris?" Jamie shook his head. "He's gone. But his faction might still be out there. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." As they boarded the Indomitable, Jamie couldn't help but feel a sense of grim satisfaction. They had prevented a disaster today, but the fight was far from over. The chapter ended with the Indomitable lifting off, leaving the frozen wasteland behind. Jamie knew they had only scratched the surface of a deeper, more complex threat. Jamie Carter stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, reviewing the data collected from the alien vessel. His mind was a whirlwind of possibilities and dangers. The revelation of the ancient weapon hidden on Earth added layers of complexity to their mission. "Dr. Hughes, what have you discovered so far?" Jamie asked, turning to the brilliant scientist who was poring over her console. Evelyn looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of concern and determination. The alien message contained more than just a warning. It detailed the history and purpose of the weapon. It was created eons ago by a forgotten civilization to protect against cosmic threats, but its activation could destabilize our planet. Jamie nodded, absorbing the gravity of her words. "We need to find out more. What else can you tell us?" Evelyn continued, "The weapon is linked to Earth's magnetic field. If tampered with, it could cause irreversible damage. We need to secure it and ensure it remains dormant." Jamie turned to Lieutenant Mark Daniels, whose expertise in engineering was crucial for their mission. "Daniels, can you devise a way to contain or neutralize this weapon without triggering it?" Daniels furrowed his brow, thinking deeply. "It's going to be tricky, but I believe I can come up with something. We'll need specialized equipment and precise coordination." As they planned their next steps, the Indomitable received an incoming transmission. Jamie activated the comms, and the holographic image of the alien leader appeared once again. "Captain Carter, time is running short. There are factions within your own people who seek to exploit the weapon. You must act swiftly." Jamie clenched his fists, anger and frustration bubbling up. "We're aware. We'll do everything we can to prevent that." The alien leader's expression softened. "We will provide what assistance we can. Our technology can help you secure the weapon, but you must be vigilant." With the transmission ended, Jamie turned back to his team. "All right, we have our orders. Let's move out." The Indomitable touched down near the site of the weapon, deep in the Arctic wilderness. The frigid air bit at their exposed skin as they disembarked, their breath visible in the cold. Evelyn led the way, her portable scanner guiding them to the entrance of an ancient underground facility. "This is it. The readings are off the charts. We need to be careful." They descended into the depths, the ancient corridors echoing with their footsteps. Strange symbols adorned the walls, glowing faintly in the dim light. Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. As they approached the central chamber, the team was met with a shocking sight. A group of armed mercenaries, led by none other than Colonel Harris, was already there, working to activate the weapon. "Harris! Step away from that device!" Jamie shouted, drawing his weapon. Harris turned, a smirk on his face. "Ah, Carter. Always the hero. This weapon will ensure our dominance. You can't stop us." Jamie took a step forward, his voice steady. "You don't understand the consequences. This isn't about power, it's about survival. If you activate that weapon, you'll destroy us all." Harris laughed. "Spare me the lectures. We have everything under control." Evelyn, realizing the urgency of the situation, whispered to Jamie, "We need to create a distraction." I can disable the weapon, but I need time. Jamie nodded. Daniels, create a diversion. Keep them occupied. Daniels grinned, setting up a series of explosive charges around the chamber. You got it, Captain. As the charges detonated, chaos erupted. Jamie and his team engaged Harris and his mercenaries in a fierce battle. The air filled with the sounds of gunfire and shouts. Evelyn worked frantically at the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys. Just a little longer, she muttered, her heart pounding. Jamie fought off two mercenaries, his movements precise and lethal. He glanced at Evelyn, urging her to hurry. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the chamber. The weapon began to hum with energy, its activation sequence initiated. No! Jamie shouted, realizing they were out of time. Evelyn, with one final keystroke, managed to override the system. The light faded, and the weapon powered down. She collapsed to the floor, exhausted but victorious. Harris, seeing his plan thwarted, snarled in rage. This isn't over, Carter. I'll be back. Before Jamie could respond, Harris and his remaining men retreated, disappearing into the shadows. Jamie rushed to Evelyn's side, helping her to her feet. You did it. You saved us. Evelyn smiled weakly. Let's get out of here before they come back. The team made their way back to the surface, the ancient facility crumbling behind them. As they boarded the Indomitable, Jamie couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. They had secured the weapon, but the threat of Harris and his faction still loomed. As the ship lifted off, Jamie knew their mission was far from over. They had won this battle, but the war for Earth's safety was just beginning. The Indomitable hovered over the Arctic wasteland, the crew's thoughts heavy with the knowledge of the rogue faction's intentions. Jamie Carter stood at the helm, his resolve solidifying with each passing second. The mission had reached its critical juncture. Captain, Evelyn's voice broke the silence, I've intercepted a transmission from Harris's forces. They're regrouping at a hidden base not far from here. Jamie nodded. We can't let them get another chance to activate that weapon. Daniels, prepare for immediate departure. Lieutenant Mark Daniels worked swiftly, his fingers flying over the controls. Coordinates set, Captain. We're ready to go. The ship soared across the icy landscape, drawing closer to the location of the enemy base. Jamie's mind was focused on the task at hand, knowing that any misstep could lead to disaster. Everyone, gear up, Jamie commanded. This is going to be a tough fight, but we have to stop Harris and secure the weapon. The crew armed themselves, their faces set with determination. As the Indomitable touched down near the enemy base, Jamie led the way, his senses on high alert. The base was a fortified structure, surrounded by sentry drones and heavily armed guards. Jamie signaled for the team to move silently, using the element of surprise to their advantage. Evelyn activated her portable jammer, disrupting the drone's sensors. We have a narrow window before they realize something's wrong. Let's move. They infiltrated the base, navigating through a maze of corridors. The sound of approaching footsteps made Jamie hold up a hand, signaling the team to hide. Two guards walked by, oblivious to the intruders. Once they were out of sight, Jamie motioned for the team to continue. They reached the control room, where Harris was overseeing the final preparations to activate the weapon remotely. Harris, step away from that console. Jamie's voice rang out, strong and commanding. Harris turned, a sinister smile spreading across his face. Carter, you just don't know when to quit, do you? Jamie stepped forward, weapon raised. You're endangering everyone. This has to end now. Harris sneered. You're too late. Once this weapon is activated, we'll have the power to reshape the world. Evelyn began working at another console, trying to override Harris's commands. Jamie, I need a few minutes to shut this down. Jamie nodded, keeping his focus on Harris. Daniels, cover Evelyn. We need to buy her some time. A firefight erupted as Harris's guards stormed into the room. Bullets flew, and the air filled with the sounds of combat. Jamie moved with precision, taking down enemies with calculated shots. Daniels protected Evelyn, his defensive skills proving invaluable. Hurry up, document. We can't hold them off forever. Evelyn's fingers danced over the keyboard, sweat forming on her brow. Almost there. Just a little longer. Harris, realizing his plan was falling apart, made a desperate move. He lunged at Jamie, a knife glinting in his hand. Jamie sidestepped, using Harris's momentum against him to disarm him and pin him to the ground. It's over, Harris, Jamie said, breathing heavily. You've lost. Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos. I've done it. The weapon is deactivated. The remaining guards, seeing their leader defeated and the weapon neutralized, dropped their weapons and surrendered. Jamie stood up, looking around at the scene. We did it, he said, a sense of relief washing over him. But we need to ensure this weapon can never be used again. The team worked together to dismantle the weapon, removing its core and rendering it inert. Jamie contacted the Indomitable, arranging for the transport of the components to a secure location. As they exited the base, the icy wind whipping around them, Jamie couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. They had prevented a catastrophe and ensured the safety of their planet. Back on the Indomitable, the crew gathered in the briefing room. Jamie addressed them, his voice filled with pride. We faced incredible odds, but we stood our ground. This mission has shown what we're capable of when we work together. I couldn't be prouder of this team. Evelyn smiled, her exhaustion evident but overshadowed by her sense of achievement. We still have a lot of work ahead of us. The threat isn't completely gone. Jamie nodded. But we'll face it together. As long as we stand united, we can overcome anything. As the Indomitable lifted off, heading back to Earth, Jamie knew that the fight was far from over. Harris's faction might be defeated, but other threats loomed on the horizon. Yet, he felt confident in his team's ability to handle whatever came next. The chapter concluded with the Indomitable soaring into the sky, a symbol of hope and resilience. Jamie Carter and his crew were ready for the challenges ahead, their bond stronger than ever.